Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to tell time in Spanish. And this is one of the more challenging lessons that we'll be learning this semester. So I wanted to make a video to make sure that everybody, even my students who are quarantined and my virtual students, get the full experience of learning with the teacher's explanation, aka me. So the reason why this is one of the more challenging lessons is because many people don't know how to tell time on an analog clock. We have digital clocks everywhere, like on the bottom of your computer or on your phone, and we don't really need to be able to tell time on an analog clock as much. But if that's all you have in a room, you probably should really learn how to read it. So let me do my quick 30-second lesson. I found this cute rainbow colored clock that's on sale and on Zazzle.com. I don't get any money from advertising, darn it. But if you look at an analog clock, the shorthand points to the hour, which in this clock is white, and the long hand is the minute hand, and it tells you the minutes in that hour. So if you look at the shorthand and it's pointing at the 10, then the long hand, this counts by fives. Every number count by fives. So 5, 10. So the time on this clock is 10, 10. If the long hand was pointing at the 12, it would be 10 o'clock on the dot. If the long hand was pointing at the 3, it would be 5, 10, 15. So it would be 10, 15. If the long hand was pointing to the 6, it would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So it would be halfway through the hour, 10, 30. And so on. So you can look at the black numbers here and it tells you the minutes, and then the white numbers tells you the hours. Okay. If you don't understand how to tell time on an analog clock, you might want to go back and find a good YouTube video. They're everywhere. My 7-year-old is learning how to tell time on an analog clock as we speak. So you can do it. I believe in you. So just go back and learn before you take these notes. Preferably, it'll probably make more sense if you can do that. Okay, so we are taking notes on your time note sheets. You should have 3. So you'll have one that looks like this, and it says telling time from 3 to 4. And then we're going to then the second note sheet is going to be telling time from 12 to 1. And the third note sheet is time vocabulary. Some of it's filled in for you already. And if you're looking for where these sheets are in Google Classroom, they'll be in the survival guide folder and also in week 14. So if you need to reprint these for some reason. So let's go through these. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, so what we're going to do, you're looking at an analog clock here. We're going to pretend like we are little fleas and we're following the minute hand around the clock on here, on this clock face. So we're going to tell time from 3 to 4. So pretend like the hour hand is pointing towards the 3, and pretend like the minute hand is pointing to the 12. So then it would be 3 o'clock. And I'm going to tell you, actually it's on your paper how to say it is 3 o'clock already. So it should say son las tres. Before we get into the telling the time, I wanted to point out this question in the middle. And you'll need to know how to say this in Spanish for sure. It's very important to ask what time it is. It is ¿qué hora es? ¿Qué hora es? Remember that you need an upside down question mark in the front, and all of your question words have an accent on them. So, ¿qué hora es? Literally, it says, what hour is it? But it translates to, what time is it? Okay. All right. So jumping in, the minute hand, we're little fleas. We're writing on the minute hand around the clock, and it's pointing at the 12. Again, the hour hand's pointing at the 3. So it is 3 o'clock. Son las tres. It is 3. Son is the verb ser, and you're going to see that anytime we tell time. You also see it in the date. You've been writing it every day. You say hoy es, lunes, martes, or whatever today is. So it's the same verb ser. We conjugated it last week. So it should look familiar, okay? So it is 3, all right? And you're copying it down on the blank. Now we're following the minute hand is now moving to the 1 o'clock. So we're riding it to the 1 o'clock. Well, not yet. So wanted to say on this side of the clock, you are using E to say the minutes, which means and. So I'll show you what I mean. Just write an and there in the box, and I'll show you what that means. Okay. To say it is 3:05, instead of saying 05, which I guess in English is like on the clock, it's short for on the clock, we are going to say and 5. So son las 3:05. It is 3:05 is what you're saying. And can I just say this while you're writing that down? Nobody really writes the time out like this in words, but if I wrote is 3:05 in digits, you wouldn't know how to say that. So I'm writing it out in words so you know what to say in Spanish, okay? So son las 3:05. Okay, so following that pattern, what do you think 3:10 is going to be? So you're going to keep it the same. Instead of saying son las 3:05, you're going to trade out the cinco for 10. So it's 3:10 is going to be son las 3:10. It is 3 and 10. Okay, easy so far. Okay, we're riding the minute hand around, and now it is 3:15. So the minute hand's pointing to the 3, and so is the hour hand. Both are pointing to the 3. Now, you can say son las 3:15. It's not wrong, but there's a better way to say it, and it's a reason why there's a red circle around these 3 numbers is because there's going to be a special word that I would like you to use in place of 15, in place of 15. So here's this one. Son las 3:15. Okay, so it looks like the number 4 a little bit. It actually means quarter or a fourth. So cuarto is a fourth or a quarter, and cuatro, you flip the T and the R around, cuatro is 4. Okay, so you're saying it is 3:15, or in other words, 3:15. And think about a quarter is a fourth of something, right? Like you have 4 quarters in a dollar. If you were to divide this clock face into 4 slices of pie, this is a fourth of the hour, right? So son las 3:15. Okay, so now we're riding around. It's 3:20. So the minute hand's pointing to the 4 now. And we're going to go back to the normal way of how we were doing it up here. So how would you say it is 3:20? Can't hear you. Say it louder. Just joking. I'm not going to do the door thing. Okay, so it's son las 3:20. So I'm going to move that. Son las 3:20. It is 3:20. Okay, and then riding around to 3:25. So the minute hand is pointing to here now. So you're going to say it is 3:25. Okay, any guesses on how you would say that? Son las 3:25. And why am I clicking? Son las 3:25. So in this situation, I guess it wouldn't hurt to do your word the one word way, 25 with an I. That way you don't have and twice, but it doesn't really matter. Son las 3:25. All right, so now we're coming to, I wish I could move this thing out of the way. Now we're coming to the number 6. So it is 3:30. There we go. And it is circled red, so that means we're going to have a special word. Now you can say son las 3:30, which is it's 3:30, and that's okay to say that, but I want you guys to know the special word. If you look at the clock, it's divided into 2 parts. So where are we in relation to how far we are around an hour? How far along are we? We're about halfway, right? So we're going to use the word for half, like it's a 3:30. Okay, so you're going to say, son las 3:30. Media means middle or half. So it is 3:30 or a 3:30. And again, you can say son las 3:30, 3:30. But it does sound better if you say son las 3:30. It's easier to say too, in my opinion. Okay, I need you to take a deep breath because this is where things get a little interesting and you actually have to do a little bit of math in your head. For my non-math people, I feel you. It's simple though, I promise. It's painless, okay? So on the second half of the clock, and this is the traditional way of telling time. And again, you can just say it's 3:35, it's 3:40, and use your big numbers, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to teach you the traditional way of doing it. That way you can do both. Okay. So on the second half of the clock face, we are actually going to be using the word menos. Okay, so menos means minus. And by the way, E means and, but it can also be plus. Didn't know that. You were doing math today, did you? Okay, so on the second side of the clock face, we're going to be saying how many minutes are left until the next hour. Okay, so have you ever heard anybody say it's 10 till 5 or it's 6:45? Well, that's what basically exactly what you're going to be doing on the second half of this clock face. So remember that each space here represents 5 minutes. Okay, so our minute hand is now pointing to the 7. So if you were to count and see how many minutes are until the next hour. So we're counting how many minutes are till 4 o'clock. So remember, it's 3:35. So count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So we are going to say it is 4 o'clock minus 25 minutes. Okay, so how would you say it is 4? You're going to say son las, just like we did over here, but instead of tres, you're going to say cuatro. Okay, so you're going to say son las cuatro. And instead of and, you're going to say menos and say minus 25. Okay, so it looks like this. Son las cuatro menos 25. So it's 4 o'clock minus 25. Okay, if your mind just went, it's okay. It is a little bit tricky to get used to. Once you get used to it, you don't even have to really think about it. It just comes out naturally the more you practice. I also want you to notice that the left side of the clock face is going to be almost like a mirror image of the right side. So if you notice on the 5, it was and 25, and then on the 7, it's minus 25. Then on the 4, it's 20, and guess what it's going to be on the 8? 20. So it's like a mirror image of the other side. So at the 8, so it's 3:40, you can say son las 3:40. It's 3:40. That is perfectly fine and correct. But the traditional way is to say how many minutes are till 4, and that's how we're going to do. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes until 4. Okay, so we're going to say it is 4 minus 20. Okay, so let's see if any of you can do it. I'm going to give a second so I can get volunteers from the class to say it. All right, let's see if you guys guessed it right, even if you just said it in your head. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so it is son las 4 menos 20. So it is 4 minus 20 minutes, or 3:40. So it's 4 o'clock minus 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes to 4. Okay, so any guesses on what you think this special number is going to be? If you look at the mirror image, you might be able to figure it out. So we're going to say it's 1/4 till 4. Or in other words, it's 4 o'clock minus 1/4. you could say minus 15. So you could say son las 4 menos 15. You could also say it's 3:45. Son las 3:45. It's 3:45. But we're going to use the special word and use menos. Okay, so we're going to say it's 4 o'clock minus a quarter, or it's a quarter to 4. Okay, so that is son las 4. Hitting the wrong button. Son las 4 menos cuarto. Ay, 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 two words that look alike. Cuatro, it's 4, menos cuarto. Ooh, tricky, tricky. Okay, so try to say that just at your desk or wherever you are. Say cuatro cuarto. Can you hear the difference? Cuatro cuarto. Okay, so cuatro means 4. Cuarto is a quarter. Very similar spelling, almost similar pronunciation as well. But it's just a quarter till 4 is what you're saying. Okay, then it gets really easy from here on out. So how many minutes are till 4? When the minute hand is pointing at the 10, 5, 10 minutes till 4. So we're going to say it's 4 o'clock minus 10. Son las 4 menos 10. Okay, and then at 5 minutes to 4, we're going to say son las 4 menos 5. It's 4 o'clock minus 5. Okay, and then how do you say it's 4 o'clock? So same as this, except change the 3 to a 4. Son las 4. Awesome. Okay, so that is telling time in Spanish. Whew. Do you feel brain tired? I kind of do. All right, so let's do this. Let's go take a mini break from doing the clock faces. So in the slideshow, I have the next, we're going to do a 12 to 1, but let's come back to that. Let's take a little detour here. We're going to jump to, we'll come back to this one. Okay, we're going to jump to the time vocabulary. So find that page, time vocabulary. And some of this is already filled in on your, actually I need to go to the next slide. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, that's what I want. All right, so time vocabulary. So we're going to fill this in. Some of it's already done for you. So here we go. So to say AM, you're going to say de la mañana. Okay, for example, if it is 5 a.m., you would say son las 5 de la mañana. And then there's 2 ways to say PM, so afternoon and night. And I guess it just depends on how dark it is outside, whether you say afternoon or night, right? And all the time change kind of jacks everything up too. So, okay, so afternoons, the sun's still up, it's afternoon. You're going to say de la tarde. If you remember, buenas tardes means good afternoon. So it should sound familiar. Okay, then PM at night is de la noche. Same as buenas noches means good night. All right, the word midnight is medianoche. If you remember on the clock face, media means middle, so middle of the night. And then I believe this one's already filled in for you. To say it is midnight, you would say, use the verb ser to say it is medianoche, es medianoche. Okay, noon is mediodía. Don't forget the accent. And that means middle of the day or noon. And then this one's already on their sheet. So es mediodía, it is noon. So instead of saying instead of saying son las 12 de la tarde, it is 12 in the afternoon, you could just shorten that and say es mediodía. All right, then hours, minutes, and seconds. I believe those are also filled in on your note sheets. Hours is las horas. The H is silent, so horas. Minutes is los minutos. And seconds are los segundos. Those are pretty easy. So practice saying that. Say las horas, los minutos, los segundos. Okay, this one's also on your sheet. It is not a cuss word. So on the dot or exactly is en punto. If someone has ever called you a punto, they called you a dot or a point. So you can tell them you're dumb and don't cuss me out. Okay, and the last thing is to say at a certain time. For example, if you want to say, what time does the party start? And the answer is, it starts at 10 o'clock. You would say, a las 10, at 10 o'clock. And then we're about to tell time for 1 o'clock, which is a singular hour. And so if something's at 1, you would just say a la una. You have to make the article la and las match your number in number, like plural, singular, plural. So we'll get into that in just a second. All right, there's our time vocab. Sweet. Okay, so I'm going to go back. If my internet will cooperate, we're going to go back to this one. Okay, this is the last part of telling time adventure here. So, what do all of your numbers have in common that one does not? The number 1. It's kind of a riddle, I guess. All of your numbers, I guess other than 1 and 0, have in common that they are all plural except for 1 on a clock. Okay, so that's going to be a difference maker when we tell time. Just some wording is going to change. Okay, so sorry, computer's moving slow here. All right, so we're going to tell time now. Same thing we just did, except we're going to go from 12 to 1. This should be a little easier for you because you've seen it all before, right? So we're following the minute hand. It is 12 o'clock, so both hands are pointed up. The hour hand and the minute hand is pointing up to the 12, and that is son las 12. It is 12. So at 12:05, you would say, oh, forgot to say, on this side of the clock, you're going to say son las, okay? And I'll explain why it's going to change on the other side. All right, so 12:05 is son las 12:05. It's 12 and 5. Okay. 12:10, son las 12:10. All right, remember our special word for the 15-minute mark. It's quarter, right? It's a quarter past 12. So that's son las 12:15. Not cuatro, but cuarto. All right, following that minute hand to the 4, which means it is 12:20. So you're going to say it is 12 and 20. So that's, let me move my little picture here. Okay, so that is son, why did it do that? Son las 12:20. And then you've got a little sneak peek there, but 12:25 is son las 12:25. Okay, do you remember the special word at the halfway point, that one that means middle? So to say it is 12:30, do you remember, what do you think it'll be? It'll be son las 12:30. And again, you can say son las 12:30. That's okay. You can say that. That's correct. All right, so what do we do on the second half of the clock? Now we have to say it's the next hour and say minus however many minutes. So our next hour happens to be 1, which is the only singular number on a clock. So we can't say son because son is for a plural number, right? So we have to conjugate ser to say es, it is, instead of they are, which sounds so weird in English, but trust me, this is how you do it. So to say it is, when you say the number 1, you're going to say es la, because it's a singular number. So you have to use the la form of ser, okay? Okay, so now it's 12:35. So we're right here pointing to the 7. How many minutes are till 1? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Or if you didn't want to count and you weren't sure, you could look at the other side directly across. It's 25 right here, so that it's like the mirror image, right? So over here, we're going to say it's 1 o'clock minus 25. Okay, so you're going to say es la una menos 25. And don't forget, we are using menos, not and this time. So it's 1 o'clock minus 25. And if this is really crazy complicated, you do need to know it this way for the test, but in real life, please don't give up on Spanish. In real life, you could just say, son las 12:35 if you find that to be easier, which most people do, but I want you to know both ways, okay? It's kind of like running with weights around your ankle. So when you actually run the race, you feel so much lighter. So I'm teaching you the more cumbersome way of saying time, so that way you can know the easy way with no problem. Or that's my intention anyway. Okay, so we're running around on the minute hand, and now it's pointing to the 8. So it is 12:40. Okay, we're right here. So we can either look straight across or we can count 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to 1. So we're going to say it is 1 o'clock using es la and then minus 20. Okay, so you're going to say es la una menos 20. It is 1 minus 20. Okay, and when we're pointing to the 9, we're going to say it's a quarter to 1, right? So you could say it's 12:45, son las 12:45. Or you can say es la una menos cuarto. So it's 1 o'clock minus a quarter to 1. Okay, so now it is 12:50. So it's 10 minutes to 1, 5, 10 minutes to 1. So we're going to say it's 1 o'clock minus 10, and that is es la una menos 10. And 2 more. So at 12:55, it's 5 minutes to 1. So we're going to say it's 1 minus 5, es la una menos 5. And lastly, we're just going to say it is 1 o'clock, and that is es la una. All right, so I know that's pretty tricky, and I hope that you understood. Again, if you don't know how to tell time on an analog clock, it would really help you and benefit you if you would go look up some YouTube kid videos on how to tell time on an analog clock before, and then come back and redo these notes, and I think you'll understand it a lot better. There are also a bajillion, if that's even a word, videos on how to tell time in Spanish that you can watch. So if you just need maybe a different person to explain it to you in a different way, I do recommend taking initiative and looking up some videos on your own on how to tell time in Spanish. You'll see videos doing both ways, the traditional way and the more modern way, I guess, is just using the big numbers, like saying son las 3:50, it is 3:50, instead of saying it's 10 minutes to 4, etc. But I do want you to know both ways. Okay, so thank you for listening, and have a great day. Bye.